Welcome to the AHQ podcast. My name is Nathan Bird. I'll be your host today, and we are joined with a special guest, Andrew Winston. I'm going to read your bio just to make sure that everyone knows who we're talking to. Andrew is the founder and CEO of Nomolos Creative, a creative agency he has led for the past 5 years with a passion for storytelling, brand strategy, and purposeful design. Andrew helps build businesses and helps bring ideas to life through creativity that connects, communicates, and drives impact.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us today.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, to all the founders out there that are actively growing and scaling their organizations, we know that there are difficult times, but also there can be mountaintops where you feel that you're on at times.
Yep.
Can you relate?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, for sure.
We'll get into that a little bit later on in the podcast. But before we begin, we've got to have some relatability from you to the audience. So share with us a little bit more about your founder's journey. How'd you get started? And where you currently are at today.
Yeah, so I think for me, my founder's journey starts really at a young age. So I grew up in a very much so dream big, ideate, create what you want to happen in your life type of home with my mom. I remember this point early on when I was little. I think I was probably 8 years old. And my mom was big on writing ideas down in her journal. And so one day she'd give me a journal for my birthday, and she's like, I want you to write something down in your journal that you want to accomplish. And she said, not just an everyday idea, but a big idea, like something that you feel like is almost impossible to accomplish. And back in that day, you know, I was a Disney Channel fanatic. Loved watching Disney Channel, That's So Raven, like all of them. Every Disney Channel original I was watching. And I remember I was like, okay, cool. You know, and this is before I started dancing, before I started doing anything. And I wrote down, I want to be in a Disney Channel original movie. I still have that journal today. And I wrote this down. Years later, I'm about 14, 15 years old. I started dancing at the age of 12. And all of a sudden I get this call saying, hey, we want you to come audition for this new movie that's coming out. I'm like, okay, cool. Went to audition for it. It happens to be a Disney Channel original movie, which happens to be High School Musical 1 and 2. And then I remembered while I was filming, and my mom actually, because she dropped me off, she's like, wait, didn't you write this in your journal years ago? And I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote this in my journal. So my founder story really happens at a very young age when, you know, in order to be a founder, you have to be somewhat crazy, and then you have to be somewhat a big idea dreamer to really accomplish big goals. So for me, that's where I felt like it was a vital moment in what I'm doing today of like, I can do anything that I want to do. Yeah. And that's kind of where my founder's journey started.
Well, many founders out there, they have that moment in time where they, you know, they've visualized it.
Yep.
But now they're then have to place that into action items, you know, and team and everything that surrounds that, you know, and that's really where the learning curve comes in, as well as creating sustainability and then maintaining the sustainability on the dream that was first initially created. But that's where I think it's important for individuals that are action takers connect with individuals that are also visionaries. Yep. Can you share with us about how you've been able to understand your gifts as a visionary and creative, and then how you've been able to place around you the activators and the integrators that are important?
Yeah. So for me, I am a visionary, right? Like I dream big, I think big. It's easy for me to build the team around me. However, what I am not so good in is the operational side of things. So what I realized, and almost like, and I won't say I realized it too late, but we're 5 years into an organization. So Nomolos Creative is a 5-year company. We celebrated 5 years in April this year, 2026. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a ride for sure. Been a journey. But what I've learned is that if I can build the right team around me, then we can actually scale faster and do better. So I had to learn too, as a visionary, how to slow down enough to where my team can actually come on board with the vision that I'm wanting to accomplish. And I learned that the hard way, because in the very beginning, I went through, you know, quite a few team members. I have some team members that have been with me for 4 years, some team members that have been with me for 2, 3, and so on. Like, I love longevity when it comes to your career, but I'm also now realizing, Nate, that not everybody that has been with me from the beginning will be with me in the next iteration of our company.
Let's pause for a second there, and I want you to walk with me to the mountaintop.
Yeah, let's do it.
So walk with me to the mountaintop, and then share with me the insights that you typically can go through to be able to refine and help you understand, because you're a creative visionary.
Yep.
So those individuals typically are reverting back, then they create the strategy, and then they share that with others. Can you share with us a little bit of how you do that and the process of coming to that mountaintop?
Yeah.
We're there now.
Yeah. So what you're asking, if I'm hearing you correctly, is how do I have this ideation or this idea, but how do I bring my team up there with me?
Yep.
That's a great question. I think for me, what it really boils down to is that I'm a plain visionary when it comes to like, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. So I write that thing down. And then right now, who I'm talking to is what, if you're with the EOS model, it would be the operator of the business, and which currently who sits in that role is Jess. She's very operational. She's like, okay, Andrew, like that's a big idea. And not that that idea can't be accomplished, but this is what it's going to require for that to be accomplished. So I first bring her into the picture before I bring anybody else from my team.
Smart.
Because what I did early on, it was like I just threw up on everybody. It was just like, I got this idea. Boom. And everybody's like looking at me wide-eyed. I'm like, why are you guys looking at me wide-eyed? Isn't this awesome? Isn't this great?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't think you know what's required to actually get to the mountaintop in what you're saying. And so I had to slow down, but I didn't slow down in, the ideas that come, because I'm a firm believer, if idea comes to you, then you should be moved to action with that idea in some way. Now, it may not be right then and there. It may be, a few months down the line or a year later, but you should start working that idea out because it's given to you for a reason. But for me, I had to block out the noise of people and talk to my operator first, which is Jess, and say, hey, Jess, this is my idea. Now, can you tell me the truth on, can I actually accomplish this? And when can this be accomplished? Within what amount of time? Because for me, what I learned as a leader is that when you're bringing your team into a certain situation, you also have to be the course director, and you also have to be the navigator of like what time that should actually take to do that and how long you want that to take. Because, earlier on too, I'd give an idea and then it'd be like 6 months later before it was accomplished. And I'm like, that's way too long because the team didn't have the drive or the initiative, or maybe they didn't have enough information for me to do the best job. And so right now we're in this major scaling season, which is hard. Like I have all these ideas of how to get there. I'm like, okay, in my map, like you and I, we just think a lot the same. Like we have the roadmap. We're like, yeah, this, and this, and this. But, like a Lacey in your organization is like, okay, Nate, slow your roll down, a little bit. Like we can do that. But we got to map it out and we got to take the time to do that. So how I've gotten people to the mountaintop is I've told people, the one person that I know that can help me get there.
Yep.
And then she has basically divided that to our team and given them the how-tos and the pieces of what you need to do in this process of getting to the mountaintop.
This has been good so far. I can't wait to the next part of this.
Yeah.
So we're going to head into the current state. We'll do a current state analysis of the business that you currently are running, and then as well what the future looks like there, and we'll cast that vision here in a second. But let's talk a little bit about the journey that you've gotten or went through so far to the place where you are today.
Yeah.
You started with you.
Yeah.
A lot of founders stay in the seat of you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, right? Like they just want to be the person that does everything. The key man risk is what they currently call it.
Yep.
But let's walk through where you've been, and then as well now where you are, and then of course we'll leave the future a little bit later. So share with us that.
Yeah. So where I've been as an organization is like I've been a massive doer, but I do remember earlier on that I need a team. I'm a firm believer that you can't scale without a team, and you can't scale without the right team. I've had that since day one. Now, my downfall in my leadership is that I'll allow people onto the vision earlier on and almost prematurely.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily the right people for that. I may like them as an individual, but that doesn't mean they're the right person for that seat or for that job. And so that's been my downfall as a leader, is like I just give people trust and autonomy way too soon. And it ends up burning us out as an organization because I'm like, oh, I give you all this stuff and blah, 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 do this. And then at the end of the day, they don't drive the results that are actually necessary to get to where we need to head.
How have you shifted your approach to that scenario now as opposed to how you would have done it in the past. Can you share with us some insight there?
Yes. So the first 3 years, I was the only one interviewing. Say that's for instance, I was the only one interviewing. So there wasn't a deep, in-depth interview process. That's no longer happening. That, where they say hire slow, fire fast. I'm realizing that to be really true in this current season of my life with the company of like hiring slow and then firing fast, because you want to get 18 players. The only way that you're going to scale your business past $1 million, and what we're currently trying to do is we're trying to get to $1.5 million in recurring revenue. And that's tough, but the only way that you can do that is to have 18 players. So hiring slow, asking the right questions, not allowing people just to come on because of relational collateral, has been one thing that I've learned.
Can you share with us some insight? And this is a great podcast for the seasoned operators out there that are currently scaling organizations, and they're in a process now where they have to hire. So can you share with us some insights that you found to be successful during your hiring process and as well your attraction marketing? I know you're a marketer, right? Yeah. So you attract your audience and you attract them by the culture that you're creating, but also can you share with us some questions that you are now asking during your hiring process?
Yeah. So it's a 3-step tier hiring process right now. So the first layer is all questions, informational, like, your background, what do you do, what drives you, what motivates you, all those questions. The second one is another layer of those same questions, but it's with our operator. So she's going to ask, Jess is going to ask more operational questions. She's going to ask, what did you do to problem solve in this in point A to point B? How did you get from point A to point Z? So it's a little bit more like there's in-depth questions that go more on the operational side of things. Not that they have to be operational in their thinking, but they have to know and align with systems. They have to be able to learn and use a system. That's the only way that we're going to scale. So it's the second layer. And the third layer is me. So when they get to me, it's all culture. I'm like, are you a right fit culturally? Do you believe in, one of our core values of Nomolos is relationships over ideas. Like when I say that, what does that mean to you? When I'm saying we need to build a relationship before ideas, what does that mean to you? And allowing them to say, well, this means X, Y, and Z to me. Like if you're talking about relationships, that means you want to put relationships first before we're sitting and brainstorming and we're trying to figure out these ideas and then letting the best idea win. That matters. But at the end of the day, the relationship matters more to me than the product of what we produce. And so our team culturally has to align with that. So when they're getting to me, it's more like culture. Are you the right fit? Do you have energy? Because that's important to me. Like, the mood that you set, I don't care if you're doing editing in a dark room, and if you're on a meeting and you're kind of lull and dull, I'm like, you ain't it for me. Like you're not.
Do they call that the
culture.
Karens, right?
Yes, the Karens. We don't want any Karens in our organization.
No Karens.
Nope. See ya. Peace.
For all the ladies out there that are named Karen out there, we still love you. We love you. But sometimes there are some real Karens.
Crazy Karens. So when they're getting to me, it's a 3-step process, but I'm talking about more culture and vision. Okay. And then 2, when they get to me, I ask them big ideas. Like, does this big idea scare you? When I say 1.5 million in scaling, what does that mean to you? Does that feel like you're going to be doing all the work by yourself? And you have to figure that out? Or does that excite you? Those are the questions that I try to feel and see, because I'm like, this is only getting bigger.
Well, speaking of bigger, I'm probably just going to challenge you because you're on the HQ podcast where we think 10X. That's 10.5 million. Yeah. Does that scare you?
No.
Perfect.
It excites me.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Come on, big visions, visions. But you can't get to the big vision or the mountaintop without being able to understand standard operating procedures.
Can't.
Because in order to create a company that is institutionalized. Yeah. That's what they call it. Yeah. Because you, in essence, are creating a structure that can exchange hands, or where you stay on as chairman, and or you exit and you have the value that you've created be transferable to, because it's an asset. That's what businesses are. Yeah, they're assets, or they could be liabilities, big time for some people, depending on what they've created. Share with us a little bit more about the standard operating procedures and frameworks now that you're seeing, because I guarantee it, you're seeing your organization now differently than you did in the past.
Yes.
Based on the current state that you're in of scaling your organization. So now as an entrepreneur in a scaling seat, share with me what you're seeing and what you've had to implement in order to get to 10.5 million.
Yeah. So what we've done in the beginning, I sucked. SOPs were like, well, that might have been a foreign language to me. I'm like, what do you mean we have to do this in order and organize what? This is what? Well, I thought we just woke up and we just do what we want to do. You know, as a creator and a visionary, a dreamer, I'm like, SOP, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? But what has really helped us is that I literally asked myself the question, and this is the question I've been asking as a founder. If I leave this company for 3 months, would it survive? And right now, the current answer, and I'm scared to say, we're moving out of it, but it's a no.
No. Okay.
It's a no. And what I've been so passionate about lately with my operations manager, specifically Jess, I'm like, Jess, what do we need to do? I feel like there's too many steps here. I feel like there's too many steps here. Can we minimize here? What apps and things are we using to speed up the process? We're integrating AI in certain ways, but we're not losing the humanity in others. So we're really, as a creative agency, we're trying to fight for, still being a creative agency and like leading the way in creativity, but also allowing the systems and the apps of like AI to really help streamline, our creative process. Because when I look at our creative organization, what tends to be the bottleneck the most and what we've had to fight against is it takes a lot of time to create something really worthwhile. And what now in our day and age, and when people hire or want to hire a creative agency, they literally ask like, are you using AI? Some love it, some hate it. Some companies that we work with are like, we don't want to use any AI. We literally had a client yesterday said, hey, I don't want any AI images at all. And so what that means, and we have to clarify, okay, then that means we have extra work on the front end now. That means we have to do an actual product shoot and use every single shoot, every single photo for his content, whatever. So we've learned that in using our SOPs and streamlining our SOPs is that like, and I ask my team this all the time, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're an editor, whether you're the creative director, whether you're social media manager, how can you make your job more efficient? And if you were to leave tomorrow and I hired somebody else, could they be properly trained within 1 week? And if the answer is a no, then we're doing something wrong. And so that's what I'm driving the company into. Now, do I know how to build out the SOPs? Absolutely not. Do I know all this? That's why I'm like,
that's where you have integrators.
Yes, I have integrators that are coming to do that stuff. But I'm also looking at my level of, okay, as a founder, as a CEO, we got to move the needle faster. And the only way that we can do that is like, we got to buy back our time. The only way that we can buy back our time is if we streamline the systems, And so like thinking backwards like that. And then I'm telling my team as like motivators, like, hey guys, this means that if we just bought back 2 hours of content creation, that means we can add on X, Y, and Z amount of clients. That means your salary goes up to X, Y, and Z. So there's a motivator behind it, an incentive behind it, so that they actually feel like, okay, we can do this. But SOPs, man, the first 3 years I should have, that's why honestly, like I messed up because I did not realize how important that was. Everything was riding on my shoulders to accomplish with the team rather than, man, if I would have had SOPs established year 3, we'd probably be at that 1 million, 5 million, like now. So I learned it the hard way, but now it's like, we got to do it. There's no
right seats on the bus. And, I think it's important because when you're wanting to cast a vision for a different present, it can be difficult to do so when they don't quite understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
And I think that's where, establishing the relationship first, because if we're going to push our team members, I've done it before. I do it often, actually. They need to know though, and maybe we get more on the more emotional intelligence side right now. And I'd like to steer that direction. Because we're talking about team right now, and we're talking about scaling, and I think some of these things are intangibles that people don't really look at for the valuation of a company, because at the end of the day, the valuation is predicated on the leaders as well as the system. So it's just like, company and culture. But let's talk about the emotional intelligence that you have had to implement inside, as well as your understanding, because there's an empathetic connection that one has to have to an understanding for the individuals that are within an organization to help them achieve their greatest potential. So can you share with us a little bit more about how you have used your empathetic understanding and your emotional intelligence to be able to create that side of the value inside of your company?
Yeah, I will say that I didn't get with this question, and it's a great question. I didn't get it right for a while because one of our values, like I said, is relationship over ideas. And what I use that as is like building relationship is like keeping everybody happy. And it was like I didn't address the issues that actually needed to be addressed to be relational. Because when you think about relationship, and if you have a relationship with that person can tell you the truth. That person can tell you when you suck. You know, that person tells you when you're doing good. And what I lacked as a leader and a founder in the organization was that in the beginning, I just wanted everybody to be happy because I wanted team morale to be happy. But what was happening, we were suffering as a company and organization because things weren't getting done at a high level of what they should have been getting done. But what I've learned in having more empathy is that having more empathy doesn't negate telling the truth. Having more empathy actually shows that you really care and you care about them. So if I'm addressing, say, for instance, one of my designers' work, he did a branding job. And I'm like,
not so good.
Not so good. You know what I mean? Like, that's not so good. I will go and I will actually try to say something that is good about it and pull something out of it. But then I'll be like, hey, man, like, you can do better. Like, this is not the level of quality that Nomolos is the standard. And this is not the level of quality that I've seen within you. And so calling that out of somebody, and then 9 times out of 10, it comes back and it's 10 times better. But what if I had just been like, oh yeah, you know, just because I'm like, oh, I want to move on to the next thing. And you know, and then he or she would have been working at that same level every single time and thinking that was the standard.
Well, that actually makes me think of compounding interest. So you can either compound an investment, you know, which is awesome, or you can just compound bad work, which then creates another Karen. You know what I mean? So it's like now the value of your company is extraordinarily decreased.
So true.
So what is compounding interest when it's negatively done? Whereas if it could be positive, so it's the same thing. It's just you look at the length of time that somebody is doing something. Well, that's interesting. I feel like there's more to that. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more?
And so for me, I mean, at the end of the day, what I've learned as a leader is that, you know, to have empathy is actually to tell the truth and to rise and bring your team to a higher standard. I think as founders, sometimes, you know, it's exhausting because you sit at this seat as a founder and a CEO and you're driving the ship for everyone. You know, you're driving this organization. You might have integrators, you might have operations, but at the end of the day, it rides on you.
It does.
You know,
all you founders out there.
If there's something quality that's not happening with one of our clients and they're not getting the answer that they need, guess who they're calling? Me. And so what I've learned is that like I've had to get better at addressing issues faster.
That's good.
Which for me, I sit and I think, I'm like, oh, well, you know, I go with this great as a leader, you know, you should be always, you know, internally working on yourself. I'm always like, man, well, should I communicate better? And oh man, should I have done that more clear? And I sit on something for like a day or two and then my team's like, it's a day or two late. Like you should have just told us that same hour, you know, like learning to move on things fast when they need to move fast and learning to move slow when things need to move slow. But having empathy doesn't mean that you don't tell the truth. Having empathy actually means that you tell the truth at a greater value for the life of your company and your organization to keep thriving.
I mean, it's important to understand what empathy actually means. And, you know, I don't think the founders of the organizations that we're talking to on a consistent basis, they're, you know, you're so focused on the business that you're building, the stressors that everyday life gives to you, that you're not focused on the empathy. You're not focused on emotional intelligence. Let me tell you that.
Not at all.
You're focused on black and white, bottom line. Where is the organization now and where is it going in the future? And then there may be some times, I mean, you know, sometimes there's some individuals that take specific structured reflective moments, which should be also put into your schedule as a CEO founder. Creative visionary. You don't have to be a creative visionary like yourself, but you have to have the ability to reflect. The power of reflection, I don't know how to equate an actual value to the power of reflection.
Yeah.
But it's extraordinarily powerful, you know, and it shows up in your work, it shows up in your relationships, and it shows up in your execution.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen that from you time and time again over the years, so we've known each other.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see how you're scaling. So speaking of scaling,
Let's talk about it.
that's a nice transition.
break you.
I feel like I should mic drop, but we're not done yet. All right, so we're moving on to our transitions into your scaling an organization now, like I said, and we talk about the future of 10.5. And, you know, let's get to that 10.5 faster than longer. So share with us now what you're doing to scale an organization. Are you looking at acquisitions?
Yes.
Are you currently, where is now your big vision? Because now your world is opened because you now have team and now you're starting to pull out your book again.
Yeah.
And start writing your big dreams, your moonshots.
Yes.
So share with us now where you're currently at and then also that moonshot.
Yeah, well, Nate, I first have to say that I've heard about the idea of scaling for a long time, but it didn't actually become a reality to me that I can make it happen till I actually sat in the room at AquaCon. And I've been a part of AquaCon for now 2 years. And, you know, I've had the ability to do content, but also sit in the room with people that have great quality of doing this. You know, they've been there, they've done it, they've seen all, you know, exits and all sorts of things, $100 million. You know, I'm sitting in this room and I'm just writing down and learning. And so I just want to say that first, is that I didn't realize that I've read a lot of books on scaling, but you don't really know that you can do it until you're around the people that have done it. And what I mean by that, and what has been so helpful for me, and even the past 3 to 4 months, is like being a part of AquaCon, being a part of the AHQ app and the network that is there, so I can ask the right questions. I remember I was on this Friday discovery call with you, and you know, and you do this kind of open round thing first Friday of every single month, and it's like, hey, what problems are you needing to work? And I'm like, y'all, scaling sucks. I'm like, let me just, like, it sounds great, you know, get to 10.5 million. That sounds all great. But what you don't realize is that you have to die to yourself to get there. And to answer your question is that what I've learned is that every single day I wake up and say, Andrew, like, what can you kill off today that's going to help you get to where you need to get tomorrow? That's a question I ask myself every time I wake up. What can you kill off and die to today that can get you to where you need to get tomorrow? And so just allowing myself to get rid of things that I don't serve me anymore, in the sense of like, okay, that took 5 hours of my week. Okay, I can no longer do that. That took 10 hours of my week. I'm no longer doing that. So saying yes to the things that I need to move forward. But also, this is something that is so undervalued, is that getting in the right rooms and building the right relationships with people, like I said, that I've done it before, so that I can ask the right questions. Because how stupid would I be if I'm just doing all this stuff and I'm like, the questions are right here, they've been answered, somebody's already done this path before. I'm not the first creative agency to ever scale. You know, like, I'm not the first ever production studio to ever scale and multiply different locations. You know, I'm not the first that's ever done that. And so for me, it's like, okay, I need to get into the right rooms with the right people, because you don't know what you don't know.
Well, and I would also say that there are systems in business systems that are created that are agnostic.
Yeah.
Levers within advanced finance as well as within structures are agnostic per industry. It doesn't matter, because what you have is a product. So there's either product or service, and then from there, it's a cycle. It's architected correctly in certain ways. That's where, you know, advanced finance and all the things that are being taught, and as well individuals that come to our events, they have experience with. And you know, that's one of the reasons why obviously we've created that, to help founders just like you in that position. And as well, there's, you know, at different various levels, but you know, it's cool to hear you've had an impact, and it has unlocked your mindset, because at the end of the day, you know, we want people to be unlocked, but we also want them to know that they can do it based on the relationship that they've built with others that have had exponential growth experiences, you know, within their business. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about business. It's about business mixed with impact, mixed with your relationships, and into an entire ecosystem that will allow for us to be our best self. You know, and that's really what we've created, is is a challenge to be your best self, but not just talk on hype and fluff, as they say.
Yes.
That's an AI thing, no fluff.
Yep.
But it's important that we do that, and it's cool to hear from you about that.
Yeah, and it's like I mean it. Like, you got to get around the right people in the right rooms in order to advance where you want to go. I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm also a firm believer in asking the right questions. Because I'll sit down and I'll be a fly on the wall for about, even at AquaCon, I'll be a fly on the wall for the first day, and be a fly on the wall for half of the second day. But then I'll ask the right questions. I'll have one conversation that will activate something within me.
That's good.
That would be like, okay, that's what I need to do. Because I don't need to do all the information that was in that room, because I'm not where everybody is at in that room.
Yeah.
But what I do need to take is extract the right amount of information that I can use currently and where I'm at right now in my organization that can move the needle forward for me. But having those relationships matter. But scaling, man, it's intense. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, to be honest.
Share with us one thing that you have had to experience right now that you can be candid and open with our audience here that you are scaling towards.
Yeah.
And then we'll end out on my question for you.
Yeah. So for me, I think the hardest thing is, because I'm so relational, is the idea that the same team that got me to where I am right now will not be there, the same team to get me to where I'm going. And I get emotional about it because I love people. I think it's the pastor in me, and the, being a pastor and just being so involved in people's lives. I want to see everybody succeed, but I want them to succeed with me. Like, I want to look to my right and to my left and be like, wow,
it's like we grew together.
We grew together. And not that can't happen. There are some people that have done that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen for me. And so dying to the idea of that may or may not happen for me has been one of the hardest things that I've had to learn.
Yeah,
and
that relational bridge.
Yep.
It's difficult. I was going to say one thing prior to your comments about the relational aspect, and I think it's important for you guys to understand too, is you can build a relationship through a transaction. It doesn't have to be a relationship first. I mean, okay, some people are going to be like, why did you say that?
Yeah,
but
it's great.
You also understand that it is your duty as one who is in the marketplace to serve your clients to the utmost. And at times it's like, well, hey, let's go out to dinner and then let's, high five. And it's like, well, your high five is making me money, basically. And it isn't like a selfish thing. It's like, no, we have things to do. We have impacts to be made. And it's almost like Mr. Wonderful. I guarantee he's spent money in people's investments. They've been happy, and it's been a transaction.
Right.
Then they built this flourishing relationship where it's like, we worked hard in tandem together. We were in the trenches together, and we built a strong relationship. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting dynamic. I think people have different takes on the relational aspect.
Sure.
And I'm a relational person as well. But it's also, it's like, well, let's all be happy not watching our ship burn in sink because we all sang Kumbaya. You know what I mean?
So true.
So
true. That's good.
So it's important that we address this one.
Yeah.
And I've said this 4 times now, and 5 next is 10.5. So let's get to 10.5 and let's do it together. How are we going to do that?
How are we going to do that?
Yeah. Because now this is your big vision time. We're literally in a podcast studio with white walls, and if we had we would do the whiteboard session right now.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that I'm currently looking at. I'm currently looking at duplicating the model that we have, like with Creators Cave, and going bigger when it comes to that production studio, so it can allow more space, more growth,
higher production
value. So that already increases, to a new level. The other thing is we're streamlining our offering on the creative side to be almost black and white, where this is what we offer, this is what we do, this is what we're good at. So those things we stay in, because as a creative agency, there's a lot of room for creative and everything. I mean, you're doing a graphic design here, you're doing a brand job here, you're doing this one-off promo video here. It's like, it's kind of crazy because there's so much involved in the creative aspect. But I've had to say, okay, what are we going to niche down and we're going to be really good at? Branding is one of them. Web development is the other. Social media management is the third. And so with knowing that, we're not leaving a lot of room for these like one-off projects, like, oh, let's just do this one-off video there. I'm like, okay, we did that one-off video there and we may have gotten a few $1,000s. Cool. But what did that cost us here? We could have been doing this because social media was already streamlined, and we could have taken on 4 social media accounts for 10x what you did for that $5,000, right? So it's like streamlining and cutting out the noise within our organization of what is not that we're not just going to do. We're going to say no to it, which is hard because I'm like, money is money. You're like, oh, money is money, but you don't realize the sacrifice of that costs you the sacrifice of something else over here. So saying yes to something, obviously you have to say no to something else. So realizing that, streamlining what we're doing, but I'm looking at acquiring other production studios and other things. I'm like, okay, hearing, hey, the studio wants out. Okay, what does that look like if we just duplicated and we went over there? Oh, this creative agency, that's doing $500,000 here a year. Let's have a conversation and see, okay, we can roll you in, like, what does that mean? So I'm also looking at other opportunities and knowing that Nomolos isn't going to be the only source to get us to 10.5 million. It's going to be acquiring other businesses that are like-minded or that have a clientele base that can get us to where we're going.
Yeah. And just understanding, like, you'll have to get some larger contracts as well. And being able to, how you can service those contracts is going to be a little bit different as well. So I would start to understand and then equity positions, understanding how you can place your company in that position as well. Yeah. But man, well, I'm excited for the future for you.
Me too, man.
For your company, companies, pretty much, the various brands that you're associated with, as well as the team that you are currently growing, as well as the people that you're going to attract. So, I hope this has been a good podcast, both for you guys out there. I know it has been for me.
It's great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We've got more podcasts coming up on the AHQ podcast. We're excited to be able to shoot more just like this for you to help you learn. If you're a seasoned operator currently running companies between 2 to 75 million in EBITDA, as well as if you're actively deploying capital into money producing assets, we also have this podcast for you, as well as your M&A service provider. If you're any of those three, feel free to comment below, as well as if you're a viewer of this, make sure to share it with your other founders who are currently in the scaling seat, just like Andrew here. So thank you guys. Our last call to action will be to join the network of AHQ. You simply can go to acquisitionhq.co, and as well, our upcoming conference, aquacon.com. That comes out October 19th through 21 in Salt Lake City, and we cannot wait to produce it. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. Can't wait to shoot more just like this for you. You just bought your ticket to AquaCon. Welcome. You're going to be coming into a room full of energy, excitement, and exuberance around compound thought process. That's what we do. We don't just 2x, we 10x your business. We do that through our workshops, through our guest speakers that provide extensive wisdom and knowledge, not just hype. And we're excited to be able to strictly curate the experience with the relationships that you will have around the round tables that we produce. Additionally, we have our VIP dinner, which is absolutely amazing. And we also will have a pre-party kickoff, and not to mention some of our deal rooms that we have structured for our breakout sessions, as well as a lunch with an expert during lunch both days. So make sure, if you haven't already, to grab your ticket at aquacon.com, and we cannot wait to see you in the room.